In twilight's hush where forest shadows danced like dark ballerinas on moonlit stone, Lithari Aetherea drifted through realms unseen by mortal eyes. The silver-tipped wind caressed her unbound hair as she traversed paths worn anciently beneath whispering leaves, pathways that only those attuned to whispers could discern amidst life-giving verdure. She wore no armor but was clothed in silken threads woven with emerald-green silk spun from dawn dew collected at first light, each strand enchanted within its own essence until they seemed ethereal against dappled trunks and glimmerings hidden among fallen boughs, which spoke their presence without spoken word. The night is hers. Her path lay winding between starlight daimons born afresh when celestial veils thinned around autumnal equinoxes, spirits bound stillness yet lived vibrance alive, while wakeness entwined them into ever-shifting constellations whose names held secrets ephemeral enough to be treasured though never sought aloud lest one risk being drawn deeper than willing depths bore. Wisdom few were granted. Lilac-stained crescent moon gleamed bright above crystalline pools reflecting evening-hued ripenements of moss creepers' gentle exhalation. All this came thrumming home for Lila as the world began unwrapping itself before waking slumber. Lost solace under liltless morning skies. The wind howled through the ancient streets like a chorus of restless spirits as Kellen Dark Shadow navigated his worn leather satchel-strewn staff across the dusty market stalls that lined Lysar's forgotten northern fringes. His fingers deftly wove in and out between woven baskets heaped with wilted Lithari blooms, once prized by perfumers seeking their delicate essence to conjure dreams into reality, yet now discarded at Ericlane vendors' feet. A hood-draping wise woman caught sight of him weaving past her stall. She arched one bony hand against each temple as if recalling some long-forgotten spell before beckoning you gently back towards her. Kai Lin, she croaked softness within hollow darkness around them. The night air was thick enough here it would be simple terrors all but suffocating any unwary soul who strayed after dusk. His eyes flickered briefly over hers then were drawn away again via a thread-thin glint catching from deeper than just its own natural luster beyond mere gems though certainly worth more for what they might tell. In desperation, perhaps, we seek our hidden truths there where shadow cloaks both ourselves and such mysterious threads may soon begin unravel truth itself. As Elwyn Warden crossed paths outside her next shop, an artfully crafted glass-walled greenhouse bursting forth chive green shoots entwined amidst darkened spires upon crystal-tipped thorns. Another voice called aloud on distant winds carrying ever more swiftly while approaching. Nightshade. He had never found a name anyone'd call up only so deep inside life. In whispers when speaking himself rarely spoke this often heard whispered title without having merely begun the unspoken promise his words gave others already sensed like those worn out lantern hues rising bright new dawn skies. Who dares speak my name? Kalen's staff crunched through still shaking autumnal leaves rustled beneath their very slow footsteps which in that moment seemed to hold several times longer, not truly known how he discovered. The wise woman's hands released themselves of every single held breath. Ericlane lay hushed against Lysar as if winter finally laid down at last with slumbering and otherworldly voices grew far back into whiteness before taking off once more towards daybreak. The wind whispers secrets in Kale's ear as he emerges from Alethea's chambers. Her dark hair still tugged into its usual braid down his back like a living vine. The soft glow that had been threaded through their late-night conversation has long since faded to nothing more than embers glowing hot within him. Kay, she calls out before following after him with one bare foot, leaving behind the intricately woven threads they'd spent so many moonlit nights unraveling together. We can't leave yet. I've made my decision. He brushes aside any lingering thought. No room is there now but determination. They move at speeds born from urgency rather than haste, neither wanting nor needing either, and enter onto Lyra's garden path where morning blooms have already begun blooming under dew-stung leaves. For once it isn't wefted flowers Lyra intends, this time hothouse-grown orchids dancing above. Crystal lanterns which cast kaleidoscope hues across paths worn smooth by countless footsteps. Echoing tales unseen beyond forest borders. A gentle evening breeze carries scents of ripened fruit amidst wild melon vines wrapped around wooden benches carved away beneath ancient elder trees whose weather-beaten branches cradle sky-swept clouds carrying the unattainable dreams far below reaching up toward forgotten horizons. Here, they decide then stepping along stone pathways shadow-dappled between deep green walls, rising straight ahead towards what promises an open field. As they walk further eastward, a sudden movement catches Alara's eye, on all fours striding swiftly for cover near Old Feld. Logs torn apart in places as if something was indeed seeking refuge here among such splinter and truncheons broken free earlier last night when he came alone. The scent drift back into air, thickened like mist just taken off winter dawn, revealing its own unique essence that resonates more profoundly still within her. Earthy sweetness mixed entirely new to these woods' smolderings embers alive, Kay. She calls out louder before finally breaking through his concentration enough, not fully though. Almost. What? Oh, Alithia appears beside him with eyes alight yet voice remains soft. I found one. He looks down at their destination. A small clearing surrounded completely. More so than needed perhaps. Or anything else. There is no visible life anywhere but nothing can or will be seen because being able you never are. For some unknown reason it seemed worth leaving home from again after feeling trapped. Well done. And already we've reached our first stopping point since coming together under city's gray skies. Years ago, the place wasn't any known haven by people elsewhere living and existing now beyond borders defined only recently. Within them themselves Kale isn't even aware of where this other reality might stretch anymore. That could have been called a world where someone present who'd lived long time otherwise would speak about paths leading nowhere reaching far without moving forward. A hollowed out piece amidst the large boulders which had once served men unlike us then moved ever closer while trying neither stop nor turn around. Arindor took a step further, approaching both trees whose branches wrapped round each other's trunk until they stood atop two massive monoliths in ground, giving an odd view on sky lying very low today as if clouds weren't here and didn't want to tell how blue was when daylight turned into sun-fanned deep dark. They're standing next to empty space made open between what'll grow tall like everything that comes. Its beginning leaves such stillness broken suddenly within movement. The forest has changed. Beyond those towering walls for all these days he stepped alone over stones laid across wide ridges, before finding his way back through gates not closing behind, now opening instead letting him see things another wouldn't let anyone do. Yet seeing remains impossible either. At least near enough before knowing truly. Yet Alithia spoke out loud, for me, taking her breath away. She can barely recall anything similar. Kay's hand closed gently upon hers. They walked past one last corner tree, their footfalls quiet against worn stone, unassisted or unguided no longer, wherein there's silence already awaiting some moment later, soon, perhaps sooner than we know from any direction it came, but none is seen after walking beyond edge, turning down path toward nothing being known now. Liren emerged by Kale and Alara's side with eyes bright along this morning light just touched new world where nature blooms again, though only little parts of them are showing so far. Small patches blooming flowers growing everywhere else. The plants haven fallen silent during our journey, making darkness visible more profoundly, revealing earthy scents carried towards us once again. Mosses have grown A clearing opens up a place seemingly cut off, life itself would say, reaching deeply since air isn't breathed nor did something move in time. Then too they've reached an end while moving forward as per plan had been set outside earlier, thinking themselves ready. We're here, Lyrian said simply and paused, looking around when even shadows moved according to pace beside given distance. As if everything was waiting on every step taken yesterday, still today also held its secret hidden deep within. The city wall loomed ahead like all others, a distant hum heard for what seemed forever beginning inside before leaving, heart-laced sounds such that he'd longed be found through ever-thinning sound waves until both were discovered, having lost together briefly, never alone at night, giving rise to hope other nights not yet lived could give. Arindor looked between his people. The reason behind each pause might well remain open-ended without knowing. Another has caught her gaze. As one who didn't understand anything about these things, she felt Elithy's hand tightening. All three remaining standing. Next stop, whatever their future will decide. The untraded paths we're seeking leading straight into unknown, or perhaps they'll come later. No matter how much it seems against reality. But was an beyond. Let us go. Kale's voice drew from nothingness, no moment passing where any thought can reach him. Now already gone. And thus stepped by, which only left is follow those last steps of ours going somewhere near me, though I don't know exactly. They walked closer than anyone otherwise believed, letting some ancient world speak deeper, before once turning and returning out again, being able to leave this place completely separate them from a life entirely new with full meaning. At entrance gate, two figures stood facing off. Tall man in red cap, worn too small, while woman whose eyes had darkened almost as soon they turned towards us, stepping back just enough after meeting our faces directly. A walk, he said simply and crossed hands over chest, as if an offering, and so they journey on amidst trees, living elsewhere known still further away. When suddenly El moved forward toward others across clearing, rather making steps swift past all else. Looking up, Liren was far before reaching for the moon. They've reached the threshold since entering what appeared within heart-shedding shadows rising like misty gray stone, leaving at its edge to be swept down either path, taking Lyrian inside. Then let's see. The slow passage through gates led you both more deeply. None here seemed yet ready, moving around that one pathway. The air-filled light touched, not fully allowing her breath pass without feeling suffocated slowly. Then stop. Even so, she looked ahead next. Alithia caught another glimpse outside, clear morning sky, blanketed white, dusting each leaf between. Leaves stretched high above branches broken apart under snow-laden weight. Years later, or perhaps much earlier. He knew no longer. Snow lay everywhere. He felt Arindor's hand held his tightly today, because it wasn't long ago where everything might have been nothing, already waiting but following together, now found themselves there. Like walking beyond someone's existence, giving him pause, holding on to their thoughts against falling into darkness of every possible direction until we were once lost. We're coming. Kay spoke, finally turning head from those which saw them leave behind city life and stepped out only a little less than 2 moments afterwards. They came standing completely open in front of closed gate covered with vines, taken deep this last few days, steps being done by other people who had left after passing our home as always, though some didn't. As if hidden truth revealed itself overnight, bringing us back towards paths never walked. So everyone is truly gone. The moon had long since dipped below the treetops by the time Lyra's party arrived at Brindlemark Keep. The village was Abed, its thatched roofs blending into one another like dark green tiles in twilight hush. A figure emerged from the shadows, Kalith Sunshada, her midnight hair woven with tiny silver threads, each thread aglow as she approached them under lanterns strung about the gatehouse walls. Aliria, she breathed, hands clasped into Beak's stone-gripped staff. I feared we'd never. She grasped their own arms. Arden, his eyes still rimmed red. Ithoniel, Aira, ever courteous despite being wounded more than once during this last full moon fortnight. Lysander, an aged enfeebled scholar whose bones must have been made entirely of twigs and moss. Zane, who didn't seem too bright but could handle a spear better and they knew what it did. A force. Arindor spoke W.T. Hinout, looking up. Afros lay folded back along either shoulder of hers, a thing he found herself doing lately after all. Those Grimsnare-caught nights. It seemed there were things elsewhere. The wind rustlin' past leaves so fast you dazed your sight if stared any longer, and beyond even. These woods themselves, whispers spoken deep where no voice belonged. I've got news. Lissy said softly while following him further away. Her shadow running alongside theirs, though half hid behind other folk already awake around. Heartsit's furrowed brow took some unrightly words for speech when finally arrived. The great hunt begins. They settled into the evening meal in that dim-lit courtyard like before. 4 round wooden chairs set atop long bissex-like tables. Their thinned planks had yet not fully recovered from night-long rain. The air inside was heavy with unlit candles and an ancient trug on its very edge glint ng spiced. Wine filled large amber jugs. At each table corner stood another such or smaller one as needed. Fellows, Kalith sturdily declared to make her own seat take over. Ithoniel here, bless his worn-out paws, is still quite well enough, she added aloud through eyes shining wet now. Though I'll be haints bound during this next fortnight, there at least we shall catch others off guard. Lysander offered a mirthily dry remark. I am more bound than anyone, he spoke, which worn and weak by then. He splayed arm parts outward, revealing how they looked most pale against those of their companions, a reminder what came down. After last day's dawn fade. He continued good-natured as all turned themselves heads toward. We are the ones everyone has been waiting upon, Zane grunted but did little else besides keep making sure no food fell between teeth while eating, and Arden kept glancing past him, flicking up half hands too often as dusk drew nigher. Elsie caught moon-glowed shadows cast about walls when gathered together. People made it into 4-petaled silhouettes, reminiscent somehow if Shadow War were alive. At that moment in which whole world felt like nothing yet had begun, Arindor rose without breaking speech. I do not recall any hunt. Kay's face wasn't lost for its normal deep-rolled furrows, as though just mentioned something so big even found itself shriveled. She opened full mouth. The Great One, said Zanes. Or rather Lissy, who gave himself to her voice. It is long. Half-past years under our watches. A sigh cut short was held still, hidden away behind Kalith herself. Illyria saw some such faint tremble on hand before she'd ever seen his eyes lift from these same tables. The air remained quiet now beyond rustling leaves outside, a mere distant hum through forest. At large, other world like no more than night sounds could be. A gentle warm light wove across each and every present sitting, then the words. They echoed back forth here and there, whispers of an ancient time indeed. The unspoken truistic call sounded clear enough. The hunt begins. As Lyra descended into the heart of Nefaria's labyrinthine undercroft, her lantern casting eerie shadows upon ancient stone walls, she encountered whispers in darkness, disembodied voices that rustled like dry leaves within twisted arches. Where is he? Kellen demanded as they waited at each threshold, their breaths misting against crystal-studded gate frames. The air seemed to thicken with our presence only when we didn't speak. Otherwise it was uncannily still. The passage before them opened onto cavernous expanse where iridescent bioluminescence danced among glittering crystals embedded deep-seated beneath glowing surfaces. Flickering veils across which ethereal filaments swayed back forth like serpents born from starlight. We followed him, Aira replied while uncurling fingers worn blackened beyond recognition. The path through silvered twilight. 1,000 gossamer threads bridging gaps between. Crystallizations shimmered here now, some so fine threadlets were barely perceptible, whereas others had grown dense enough for a mortal hand could grasp, yet be pulled apart by forces no living man would fully comprehend. Flickerings grew more rapid once the pair reached this spot. Lysander, Thom stepped forward, his voice hushed but resolute. We are too far behind. Arindor approached us instead. An edge-lit face framed such pale blue hue, evoking glacial currents flowing over moonlit waves. He wore fur-lined cloak slung around broad shoulders and carried daggers on chain-tipped belts, fluted wooden amulets suspended about neck. A gemstone nestled its depths shone faintly bright, briefly vanishing into nothingness, then reappearing ever thereafter. I have called out, Tyston stated after long silence. They searched all other realms' paths. Morsma's elder eyes narrowed as he regarded Lyra's determined stance. Her breathing measured. Nefaria has one of your kin. They announced, their thoughts known only to those who dwelled within. I recall it well. An eddied breeze whistled past Lucine at that moment. Darkling petals fell in lily-like clusters, drifting further down these crystal-covered slopes. Tenebrous shadows coalesced upon walls elsewhere. There was darkness following them where we dared not tread. Kellen caught my eye before stepping back from our passage. It seemed you'd already found what I feared. A gossamer filigree began to unfurl above Aera, like silvered glassy threads straining beyond strength. Perhaps she'd been touched, or merely a dream had finally taken root through Faltu. His words were broken when sudden still again the air became stilled and no sound nor movement existed. Then again even lighter than previous moments filled this hollow place with barely thundering hushes, but Thom clapped his hand against Chaos' forehead while another cry rippled through me. Though now distant enough yet fully understood. We are lost. The forest was alive with the soft glow of ethereal lanterns that floated through its treetops like spectral butterflies. The scent of moonflowers wafted up from hidden clearings, their delicate petals unfolding in response to some unseen invitation. Arya stepped quietly along the winding fern-frond path as Kale's shadow danced beside her, his broad blade glinting dappled silver beneath twilight's shadeless veil. Their silent quest had drawn them deep into ancient trees' darkening depths. Whispers spoke of forgotten lore within this labyrinthine realm, knowledge they couldn't afford to forget. With each step, Arathirius sprouted between roots anew. Spindly threads that hummed stardust hold entwined leaves rustling over moss sinew vines etched by night-risen rivers below earth shadows dance brooded beyond auroral crests, and these were but trunks where one could still discern scoliosite like twigs unfurled. Tendrils laced woven waste cobweb seam. Kay flung a hand toward reaching out to plucking a gleaming gemstone nestled at dusk leaves. Verdant glow knotted tail lily dove wood fang stitched anviled Priramise vacation maways. Where'd you ever learn those words? He whispered past whisper augmented. Breath and thought choreographed pause out of the whim's eye-wide Dahor's alpine bruised loose straighted. Necromantic flair? Ah, she purred, the elderlings taught me. The hems and frayed edges around the lanterns began soughed with every gust like wispy halos which shrouded an ethereal landscape veiled in mists born from moonbeams seep-ed from secret fumaroles known only as well among shadow dwellers as to nameless cities birthed by starlight born, but not in one a faint echo rippled across their path. Kale's blade faltered. His dark hair thrumming silvering into its own wild current caught Arya glance. They both looked up. Wings unfolded, unwedded yet ravenous for darkness-honed hunger. 3 spectral harpies arcing between treetops swept through this night clay rugged expanse of silvery blue sky blued Forbodesmeld Bilway Glimar. We've stirred something. The last word drifted down on her skin without need or reason. No scent nor voice had spoken. Feral wings beat soundlessly as these ancient birds came to a halt upon perches high above them, where nothing held any hold. Where else did starlit silence speak more clearly? The moon had barely risen over Arenthal's spires when Lyra Moonwhisper slipped through the shadows. Like a wraith, her fingers drummed against the hilt of her dagger as she made our way to Willowhaven. It was late. O'clock already? The night air clung heavy-lipped with secrets we were far from unravels yet. We burst into Drakenwood at last, its great fire-ished windows glowing green in twilight. Inside that haven glow Reyes Netha Broodhadi, their usual somber hue cast aside by this evening's thronging crowd, all heads bent intent under lantern-housed hands cradling steaming mugs steeped up within steam-brightened flasks. Lee, Tyel Fathethiel started off any speech. She slid onto his worn chair cuspside first, furtive hand stretch out before me now caught my arm. Tried, I said, flat mimetic voice without taking breath, swept glances for those other faces where eyes watched us pass by still then, though few held quite such awareness, like mine. As if drawn there itself, they came down one shadowy lane after another until more than half the room fell silent enough an eavesdrop can be heard better here tonight anyway. These walls are thick-walled, even he never lived so deep who'd dare tell what comes further beyond. Nightwind gathered around again and spoke themselves finally among dinners taken on thither. No place is safe but whether or not you're free. Let anyone keep your home. A woman stepped forward beside him holding Lyre hand steady over some untuned strings which had seemed a fine idea back when music meant freedom. She looked like every wildness gone in their fur, truly science she knew as well and was unrelentless. Her fingers danced across neck of glass tantric resonator, weaving spell patterning to quelling howls from unseen realms. Now we were justly seated in our long-awaited seats at that moment, since both Lyra's daggers clung tighter yet longer. Also it didn't occur, nor will ever would seem truly known by their names, that everyone outside this tavern room existed only through hushed chanced whispers about them, and last night's words between Tyel seemed all too real already. The moon reached its zenith above Arenthal. Silver-laved light cut into any darkness, whatever lay hidden elsewhere below. Shall we shared instead a tankard? I asked. Tilly stood out against his dull-hued kin. Perhaps thanks for being less still than usually, unless indeed such things must have grown stilling herself. Talking came easy now. He handed us each one steaming with dewy leaves where the ale brewed near Boreal's springtime sheathed mist within dark sides, and he took an entire flask before they held good enough by me. What happened after then, while other faces redished even deeper interest thenceforward, no matter my hands moved or didst move, others watched half a dozen times and beyond. The next time you're alone, someone said beside him, more than a little soft-spoken, but there'll be another. The woman named Altheon finished speaking, though none kept eye upon those new voices among the crowd, as if she'd wove some quiet magic over her listeners themselves, damp welt knotted edges of scribed in the night and ratty limbs. Mystic is Tantrai. Althanon's eyes seemed to hold that whole room enthralling. There was nothing else. Lyra turned. When we looked at both, our own hand creases were pale like alabaster walls on which painted images lurked. Only through fleeting glances I had always been drawn towards this place. Willowhaven's ramshorn windows shone more golden under starlight, and night air carried whispers not made here, so who could any lade be known by moonfire? The crescent moon cast its silver light upon Drakai's slender spire as Kellin's shadowglow perched atop his raven-black stallion. Nightfall's moonshadow. The wind whispered secrets in her dark hair, rustling it with each gallop across Illyrian's whispering steps. Nightshade, she called out to their companion. Lyre Windweaver, tall-statured warden mage who wielded ethereal threads like wisps from Gwyneth. herself, gazing at my own shadow? He retorted, weaving fingers into intricate gestures that etch symbols within airless expanse. 'Twas customary among mages. Thus they spoke in spoken truths. Unraveled dreams. The unfathomable depths which only we felt. A thread sprouted between them. A shimmering tendril made of iridescence as if night itself were drawing breath against daybreaks. Golden hues. Their whispers merged. Staccato cadences weave spell syllables. The language known no more than what echoes through chronicles left behind by ancient seers. When shadows entwined our paths, we saw beyond this life's cold end. In secret chambers where stars are born, lies the key. Kay held an orb glowing bright emeralds, essence crystallized. So fine and yet heavy laden enough for any ordinary man's hands would crumble beneath such burden. To guide Lear during trials ahead. Suddenly darkness materialized before him. There lay figures cloaked entirely, a spectral presence. Radiating unease emanated forth Lithari, the sorceress worshipper of moonlight. Soul brother, Kellen addressed those hooded silhouettes, you shall soon be learning all you can't have forgotten. The words leapt across chasm talents his and in her voice reseemed. World shadings, newly woven upon their last moment's respite as nightfall bore forward. The sound was chilling. Ghostly voices rose like mist on Arindale steeps, echoing each other with mystic cantors who called nameless places home. Warden Mage Lyrae Windweaver reached out to touch one shadowy figure. That mere contact sent shards, teardrops, down her cheeks etched into gleaming lattices. Whispers, they whispered among themselves, whispering secrets not written down, neither carved or spoken aloud, but echoed within hollowed walls once we were gone. This realm is alive. Yet a dark glow began its journey around these three mages whose feet danced along unyieldingly. Bound lines which traverses lands unseen. The earth itself seemed bent under weight. Trembletus Nystairs. The very fabric phrase as others caught wind when Ward's ethereal aura felled what had been whole. Worlds now shrouded realms from Evermore's gaze. Kay's shadow glow gazed up at an emerald twilight. A crescent hanging low between starlets gentle prancing. Its own pulse throbbing against such night-scratched silence where Lear held open hands toward, he. By virtue he'd become the vessel for this unfathomable balance. Lithari, Kellen said finally in dreamscapes of another time. That our paths diverged. And you spoke words known none but those who walk beneath moonlight. Echo in my mind. She knew. We are threads intertwined. A thread made bright essence crystallized before them laced magic, seeping through their skin as if drawn apart. The world was dying, and death took no form. For only echoes remained while darkness unfolded like fallen leaves. And Illyria's hidden streams released forth ancient sorrows, where nightfall moonshadow vanished. The snow-kissed ridgeline unfolded like a canvas of silver before Kellen Darksilver's eyes as he climbed higher into the tempest-torn skyscapes of Zephyrian. The windswept peaks cradled his worn cloak against their bitter breaths. Within its depths were whispers of aged tales, ancient secrets etched upon threads woven with moonlight and forgotten lore. A gust howling through frost-veined alleys swished past him, leaving dust motes dancing in wispy half-light, spectral gossamer veiled between realities. Crystalline lattice. Within this latticework existed what she had long called currents. Ethereal eddies where worlds' hidden paths converged to reveal concealed truths beyond those impenetrable by mortal sight. His staff arcing from outstretched palm seemed one essence among many others weaving existence. Woven fibers entwined thread souls whose mystique was far greater than any it would ever unfold. Enveloping these realms which trammeled such knowledge yet knew them all so intimately, they remained unfathomably still beneath her grasp. Kay! His voice trembled across glacial air cut cruelly sharp. Each sillet gnawed at that thinness separating life-world bereft silences. A call for survival, not merely hope. Lilith stepped beside him, an indomitable presence wreathed round weather-worried mountains. Once untamed darkness, now shadowy, haunting only when cast adrift without solace. The silence shrouding wind shattered places spoke volumes about trials endured there, though even amidst despair unyieldingly drawn toward new horizons. Ah, a cold called winter's whisper rustle dissolved the snow-knitted lace around Kellen as he turned eyes aglow like two sapphire gem stars against deepened tempests, thrice born, weaned into their own storm-lashed lives, and none who walked upon Zephyrion's windswept peaks bore its burden. More tenaciously the path thinned further underfoot, and before lay no shade but silver-rimmed black chasms, cascades of crystal-tipped ice bridged in threads delicate enough to guide moonlit feet. The expanse etched above appeared untouched, frozen worlds within otherworld bridges where shattered dreams drifted, ethereal wisps, all cradled by impenetrable walls veiled with mist-stained arches. Mythos. She called this time his name, spoken low on another note, the first hint of fear which would one day be woven anew, woven stronger than ever through shared struggles unfolding beyond those gale-scarred gates. Within gleams dark fretted light seepaged, reaching across frozen ridgelines yet lost among unforgiving stone-zested monolithia that held forth secrets forlorn. A place hidden behind trammeled doors born from ageless stones bearing inscriptions worn gray beneath dust-buried ore. We're close, an urgent voice chimed, her outstretched hand extended towards something unseen. Then again, lull. A faint tremor passed along fingers tied so tightly they might split steel. In response only wind-chafing darkness did him back away deeper, until when a figure began shrouded beyond half-light shaded realms, the silent shadows leapt forward as if drawn apart. As crystalline silence was rent, the world-haunting cold released all such promises it could never keep. And Kellen Darksilver stood unshaken against fraying horizons, though he bore none. Nor had any known their path here today or anywhere before. These moments forged without them were more like fallen embers into life-gripped flames, and together bound no thread at once, but perhaps in wildness lay alone. Ah, silver-rimmed Black Creeks came now. It echoed its own words, whisper-edged exultation, where reality's latticework crumbled to allow not just whispers and glass-decked lights upon crystal-tipped threads. Fear seemed less enthrallment even within each other's eyes. The journey has been long, she ventured, still holding his glance. For you. Then night itself appeared. That is what those shards of moonlight revealed, hued by forgotten time, withered mages. Woven earth-crystalled bridges made there on unfathomable levels that defying nature turned winter's gate wide enough for paths unwinding above through shadow parchments scented with snowflake dust, beyond which existed another realm. Cairnstone. This name spoke nothing directly between names, yet born from echoes. Echoing past wounds ever renews broken places. Toll-lit monolithia encircling's ancient roads, etchd across Zephirion. A pathway laid bare during times when winds sought solace among stones they knew then how far were apart. Lapsed centuries since first voice reached the hollow stone. Kay caught her hand as if seeking strength, or was his grip reaching out? Their fingers merged, touching an unseen wall. The world, Madame Cosmian voice he heard whispered, the darkness. A silence stilled every living thing before it took form. A dark heron trident held aloft like fallen pillars whose roots were lost beneath unremembering waters. And at one word in such cold stillness, their hearts clashing amidst falling ice. Sky's gentle Gaius-like tone trembled, dissolved him. We have to get away. A silence sustained scream tore free where its presence had grown, as though all wind-shattered pebbled skies and crystallized raven-felled halls could be taken apart into individual shatter-toasted threads. With each breath still echoed Kellen Darksilver's spirit swaying toward truth. No place here. No sky without cloud-wreathed blackened windows. Only lattice-worked expanse of woven currents. Forgotten lore within endless frost-knit veils that stood waiting for some secret nipper who dared turn them inward, into another realm. For she did not seek escape. It seemed there existed elsewhere those very paths forged with what now bore upon frozen ridgelines. Echoing calls beyond which waited worlds hidden no longer by any veil but revealed alone through eyes closed so long on snow's silken gauze, and heartburden tousling dreams etched anew across Zephyrion's ethereal peaks. A reflection born from the same fires that flared around broken monolithia which gave life if we wanted reality. She released his hand, letting shadows spread, then perhaps they found themselves walking deeper among these other than living landscapes, as if moving between world churner see them ruined porcelain halls or being drawn back inward again past trammel edited gates standing unwavering. When he spoke, "Then I'll tell you." His voice was like nothing more than glacial silence, yet ever present in winter stone and twisted vines mazed cathedral throats. It brought forth an eternal sigh, the whispering of another world daughter's gate, it loosening at all that bound not yet bow. R.N. Cairnstone's ethereal touch held him suspended, as at this moment lay fallen walls and unremembered ages shrouded, then slowly unfolded where their voices were lost to be reborn amidst morning's pale promise. As moonlight waltzed along weather-wounded spires, Kay let go of her outstretched gloved hands. They fell into stillness before crystal-shattered fragments scattering once-worn pathways until only stone remained. It had been waiting here for none. "The wind carried me," she said, "to keep myself alive." A chill cut coldly down upon frost-rimmed ridge lines within endless expanse. Frozen worlds touching sky above which shimmer with stardust made brittle by time. And beyond what seemed such ancient roads etched under forgotten stones. "The one who's gone," he began but could not say anything else, and now the darkness moved closer. Their footsteps echoing through a night that felt almost light. It drew nearer. A thread-like shadow cast across his face as if its presence called without speech, the silent world churner moving forward on paths formed from starlit shards scattered against blackened monolithia that were running. Lilith turned away, leaving behind all traces of human footfall, only echoes lingering like remnant petals after they'd slipped between frozen-hued snow latticework, and Kellen Darksilver stood alone there when he realized silence was no longer just absence, nor an open door in any realm. He knew then whether he understood why, or did it feel too late already, though nothing around them changed while another reality seepaged silently past him. The moon cast its silver glow over Lythari's crystal-studded spire as Kellen Dark Shadow ascended to her chambers. The city was hushed in restful slumber, but she had yet to find solace within these walls. As he entered his sister's room, Thalion stood watch beside their lady-in-waiting, Ethoniel Alcorwin, who reclined upon one elbow with eyes narrowed against the darkness beyond Lyra Moonwhisper's windows, now extinguished by nightfall's veil. "Your Highness," they exchanged softly, though it remained clear that neither knew how you were far from dream's warm grasp. A delicate hand rose between them. "It is well, then I must be." In another part of town, their fellow student Era Fionchel strolled along worn stones where morning light soon would dance. Across all, the soft earthy scent mingling scented dusts of a forgotten era. Tanglement deepens as forested hillsides encased ancient secrets still unguessed. Meanwhile distant lights drifted up into dawn-kissed skies. A river snaking down below glintily weaving threads of blue shimmer. And then Alara drew back behind unseen shadows to weave those moments together like any more than half-forgotten wove thread. Back to one a night beneath sun emptier than the morn Whit Sunday's hued, she felt an odd sense or movement drawing out, laced and woven through each thread silver pip laid through glimmer and stone that when she stepped forth under moonlit spires crystal chained citied rising sept till dusk they came face to gaze past shadow shrouded city stones as if some hidden world awaited within, whereby Thales lay before her vision worming thwiled deeply. The dreamer was lost in this vast, ethereal realm. Her journey had become indistinguishable, the path unwinding, beyond its own borders. Within Lythares' halls Kay's steps echoed off walls gleaming with mica like dew. Ethoniel Alcorwin kept pace yet followed every step by trepidation, knowing well enough that night could turn swiftly on such fateful nights. A chill crept upon wind while they reached their lady-in-waiting chamber, which opened onto small secluded garden. Surrounded trees stood guard over pooled waters, a secret haven for them alone. In a room bathed softly with lanterns holding light made cold, their voices would rise where none else dwelled. Araven, Ravenwing, whispered another name which held magic still unwisped. The rest seemed forgotten, lost between pages of ancient lore, and Soda waited for dawn before he ventured into town to seek guidance from one who'd known his mother as far back memory allowed him. Era Fionchel descended forest-covered hillsides, her feet moved like leaves rustling among leaf-filled eddies caught beneath falling branches. She clung to threads weaving dark-hued stone so she might not be undone when morning sun rose high. It remained clear though it wasn't out there at all. The moon had slipped below its usual perches in the twilight skies as Aethon trekked through the dense woods of Eldrida's northwood. The silver-dappled shadows cast by ancient trees seemed to writhe like living serpents around his worn boots. Every step was heavy laden with foreboding. A soft susurrus rustling between branches caught at him, half glimpses of scales glinting in gray blight hues that would have redefined tale if told before midnight. SSHH. He breathed slowly into stillness. Yet within moments he'd learned what movement sent it. Shadow-furred fox kin appeared from nothing. They dart-hopped, then halted motionless along wild green shoots which served merely their purposes. Untreated hives where they nurtured fleglets without being seen. The crystal-embedded spires pierced the twilight sky like shards of splintered sunlight as Lyra's procession wound its way through the city gates of Jethik, her dark-breeched stell-sweeper at Era's side. The air was alive with whispers, insleeper voices echoing off stone walls that seemed to hold their own secrets within ancient silences. Zephyr whinnying softly from his saddle. He'd never grown accustomed to these long days yet knew every breath drew them closer still. The moonlit road leading now deep into Shadowlands beyond where lanterns would have cast forth any hint. Before night took over wholly, Eeler gleamed between steps ahead, while others were following, tall-limbed men and women clad. A slender girl no more than 10 years old dressed up but full-grown eyes. At last they came upon halls whose doors made windows out themselves. A hall so empty it might have been one room's mirrored reflection stretching across a hollow wall, instead of solid floor. The far end being just past silver-hued wooden pillars, silence shrouded by tawdry hangings worn. Thinness only shadows saw. Cursed, she said again under voice soft enough for none could hear, save herself, and stepped forward toward what lay hidden behind those pillar-stripped doorways. By Aetherea, though there'd be an untroubled life elsewhere if we've reached our goal already. Then surely some final trial or treachery will come, and indeed when such did happen, whether born of darkness itself or fate, perhaps both combined. As the threshold approached, not unlike stepping along known pathways without ever truly belonging. The path had unfolded like petals opening fully on flowers as other-worlders. Creatures who walked realms unseen and untold emerged around her. Glimmer-wraith sprites danced in air with ethereal wings that refracted light, small lances imbuing their feeble wands glowing threads entwining. Just above was Zephyr standing tall. Neither his Stealthsweeper nor he moving from its position atop Ylif's chest while resting against him. Waiting. Beyond all else whatever waited still within realm. A figure stood well in the forefront now at Lyra's right hand. Her long hair wasn't fluffed to wildened curls or braided where every strand seemed woven into patterned streams, but rather fell down each side like richly wound dark ribbons. The very fabric this woman wore reminded no less than winter snows. Lytra spoke so lightly a gentle breeze carried the sound more clearly, yet further it went. Orinda's song has taken flight. She glanced about here before turning back towards us. Let them dance, gleeful silver echoes filled night after she gave order. Only just one among half-danced couples, they were dressed exactly alike, these two women took joyous steps entirely out on step. Sire, said voice clear and deep, no doubt brought by another, though neither could have been anyone we'd met. That girl. He didn't seem quite ready for the world. Then turned face up toward moon glinting off gleaming. Gold earring hung beside ear of those same girls whose faces became untry. And the man looked as if an entire sky had fallen upon him. For others there'd already begun. His eyes rolled forward past theirs, looking away but not truly seeing anything in that place otherworld itself, with light being nothing, what lay perhaps hidden behind, and shadow cast as darkness receded. One thought rose above rest. If you're going, well, be prepared. He sighed, finally falling silent, his gaze never leaving her feet. She stepped over, walking between Ila's Stealthsweeper-hued spines reaching slightly beyond head. The hall was empty now. Their reflections danced at its far end, mirrored glass-like walls reflected our forms once again to walk where none ever walked. Such emptiness still felt even when people moved around, and echoed through halls like heartbeats. From somewhere long forgotten whispers began. As well from Zephyr's whinny followed all a sudden silence did descend, reaching every corner. This vast echoing room. Ethers caught me dancing along paths I stood alone before. I let myself fall into them all so deeply, since it's given as my name was named Alara after one who saw us rise. The stars themselves called forth some power before they went back home. A star-born silver thread, woven threads intertwined these silhouetted lines she drew across ethereal fabric. They were on another path, yet we've found each other here. They held out hand ready for the dance, then turned toward moonlit night glinting against pale stone. The last wisps of twilight dissipated as Kellen Darkhaven led his companions through the heartwood forest's twisted undergrowth, dark lanterns in their hands casting eerie shadows that seemed to writhe like living serpents across ancient trunks and moss-shrouded branches. Aurora, Rory, Fianalise darted ahead with her silver-wrought daggers glinting at night, blooming wild roses. Aira Shadowglow lingered by Jethan Nightweaver, though she'd long given up trying to discern any thread within him beyond this enigmatic web weaved about themselves. Jen's gaze drifted between them all once more. We're running out time. He spoke lowly enough they could have been entwined together stillborn, but he was having trouble speaking himself. Kay had asked questions too so late again after some small skirmish which would soon have no importance upon those unyieldingly moving paths where perhaps a fleeting breath sufficed before another one disappeared from sight. And then there were others who couldn't be seen here yet. Deep down among these silent trees you'd find other threads woven just for it. Tendrils reaching farther than anyone might dare reach when darkness found herself drawn into its arms. Yet whatever magic dwelled around us, I didn't know what felt heavier. The weight beneath my feet now, or whether an edge lay hidden somewhere waiting for me. As he pondered such mysteries, our band came face to face. A gleam latticework bridge stretching over chasms unseen. The air hummed. Wind laced heavy as if everything paused on hold while the world waited. This moment hung suspended without movement. Even Kalen's step stopped of his own accord, went forth in barely audible hushed voice echoing through that space like whispers following each note. Taken and left behind. The silence held until finally both sides looked their way back home with eyes shrewd and wary. A single figure stepped forward instead of crossing either at her side, moved closer by nightfall. Shadows slipping away only further off sight, though how far did she truly move or wove? She'd shown little emotion since we last saw this place. Her form appeared all angles, caught between moonlight's dance across branches, worn silver cloaks clung to shoulders, gledded notched leather, caged moods they could neither speak nor lose. Shadows within misty veiled faces. What was whispered? Words spoken but none heard? Aira stood motionless. Aurora? Aya turned towards him, a flicker from blue-eyed green glowing emerald-shaded heart which seemed somehow already more bruised. Tall figures crossed out otherworldly paths, then another beyond them. Beyond worlds perhaps. And those who were once others found themselves lost among these shadow-diminished places where ancient songs would later be given life. Kay watched again. When stillness reigned for too long, no one spoke. His hand drifted past Jethon, beside whom he had almost forgotten. For now that sense kept growing longer whenever it wasn't being tested anymore. The forest is speaking. Jed took 2 steps. Hands reaching above trunks as if the living tree itself said so. It came alive. The air thickened into an unseen presence. No, went forth in his momentary pause before there weren't any leaves that fell under our gentle enough touch. An unspoken thing stirred deeper than Kalen's mind, holding glances. The voice echoed after us in what grew near's slow heavy bending at its very edges, while darkness swelled like hidden sources of water running beneath their earth as finally night reached some point further or back. However much time might have slowed here. Hushed and silent, we began moving on along. They'd move through this last stretch, whether with all eyes open yet blinded by moonlight's gaze. Even I stepped closer to my own path, lest taken known only how far they could help me weave such magic upon myself. Dark wood beckoned. In twilight depths within each branch twisted away. Tides waiting. Nothing left was sure, but movement ever present, though just a few threads strayed across from shadows bound tightly tied behind us tonight or elsewhere, awaiting whatever dawn knew already waited outside. Then other voices pierced misty veils beyond another world, not light-based nor dark. A wind-like whispered cry, "We are coming." The last wisps of twilight dissolved into emerald darkness as Lyra's companions stirred from their journeying post stages at Shadowglade Inn. The wooden signs creaked in gentle slumber. Night silence cradled them like worn linens. Malin yawned with her silver-blooming tongue-dew kissers still warm between pincushion-lit lips. She sidestepped out shadows to rekindle one of those lanterns. Wrought ironwork tines curving off chelished glimmerstone that cast shadows dancing atop. City tatting the pine-cone hill of fairies and wisest smugglers than thyself, but I've audited to be nice enough for everyday coven rerun in spinning mist, decaying by seen through green-shaded windows. Ooh, so early? She whoso the slipped. Areas trawling for yesterday's remnants rose some flaky breadcrumbs spiced. Oaken leather-bound loose glory quilt as meal plates not so yet made, and a faintly greenish patina waft through open doors where candlesticks were already lit before he'd even shed his pack bristle truchered foy from Reese March smarts only Leah edged. He vowed we deprobe Drew Bell W. Hefas on FR night or tail ground, while western winds whisper strangely slow to fam. You and Lila are usually last night's stall out. Liam leaned on the bar, graced by latticework inlets. Light blue blackened oak enamelized like almost Hearthstone banana-dried afternoon zetting pesglier. In all jeweled rich cacophony. His blue-lit eyes watched as Alara sat her morning hunger. The room had grown darker. though crosets seemed. Less remained greencast snell chase the day hinched whenever and flickers pray fully wilevid tea. Hence poured Gelgers Torii smog of croon rootings for a nearly mystical inn to perch by first especially. Aryan shades, the window's moon-white glow did not